Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to share with you about aviation and how aviation sector and particularly Delhi airport has been moving on the journey to sustainable future. But before I go on this, I just want to set the context right. If I talk about that, what is the overall carbon emission that is generated in aviation, because this is something that not many of us know, and there is always a perception that aviation is a huge source of carbon emission. So actually overall worldwide about 2 to 3% of total CO2 emission is generated by aviation, and only about 12% of total transport sector carbon emission is generated by aviation. And out of this, approximately 2 to 3% is airport, that is within a scope 1 and a scope 2 at the airport. And 98% is a scope 3 from airport point of view, and mostly in the control of airlines, because that is where the maximum carbon generation takes place. And good news is that there is a lot of activity happening on both the fronts, that is at airport front as well as at the airlines front. So green airport, if I talk about a scope 1, a scope 2, I think India has made good progress. I will just, before getting into India, I will share with you that what are the various things that have been adopted worldwide, which actually has made aviation and particularly airports much more greener as compared to in the past. So whether it is at the design stage in terms of designing green buildings, which ensure that there is sustainable future, because all these buildings typically last for 30, 40 years. If you don't design a green building at the beginning, then you are that much behind the future. Renewable energy adoption. Good news is that India has already moved to close to 45% of green energy, and that is something that many of the airports have started adopting in India. And even worldwide, there is a movement towards using green energy for airport operations. Then energy efficient infrastructures, green transportation, water conservation, advanced waste management, and some of the other initiatives which I will spell out at a later part of my talk. In terms of global mandate, I think most of us know that there is an ICAO mandate, which is long-term aspirational goal, which is defined through CORSIA, that net zero carbon emission by 2050. Of these, airports have a critical role in a scope 1 and a scope 2. And a scope 3 is something that airlines are working on, including adoption of SAF as well as green hydrogen. So CORSIA is a global emission reduction scheme which aims to address, reduce, and compensate CO2 emission caused by international flights. And India is supposed to take part in this from 2027. Now, just to share with you what are some of the international airports doing in this front. So giving some of the examples, green infrastructure in Changi, so their Terminal 2 design where green roof has been adopted is helping reduce the HVAC need. If I look at ground service equipment electrification, I think Hong Kong is one of the airports which has taken a lead in that. Almost 95% of the ground service equipments are already electrified. Esquifol and some of the other airports also are actually moving in this electrification journey. In terms of waste management, whether it is San Francisco, Amsterdam, Heathrow, Dallas, all these airports internationally have a robust recycling and waste management programs, and all of them are working towards zero waste to landfill. I will share with you about Indian achievement later. In terms of water management, so especially with more and more runways, you have got more runoff water, so that is how do you actually use that and recharge the groundwater. That is something that airports like Changi are using. Hydrogen fuel adoption, it's limited, but it's increasing. So in France, Toulouse, Blagnac Airport has actually a dedicated hydrogen production, storage and distribution station to power GSEs and buses. Some of the other initiatives where typically for a short duration flights, there are some countries which are discouraging flights because then per person emission is on the higher side. So for example, in France, in 2023, any destination which was less than 2.5 hours by train, and train was easily available, no domestic routes were allowed. They are giving taxes in air travel in places like France, Denmark, Norway. EU has already mandated 6% share of SAF, that is sustainable aviation fuel, in jet fuel by 2030. And UK has got a more ambitious target of about 10%. So these are some of the greener initiatives which have been taken. As far as India is concerned, India, we have got a long-term vision of being zero carbon emission by 2070 and to reduce carbon intensity of its GDP by 45% by 2030 from 2005 levels. What are we doing at Delhi International Airport? I would like to share. First of all, Delhi International Airport is the only airport in 70 million plus category worldwide to have achieved level 5 carbon accreditation, which is basically net zero carbon accreditation by Airport Council International. So it effectively means that our scope 1 and scope 2 emission is less than we have been able to go to net zero by more than 90%. So we are currently at 95% in scope 1 and scope 2, and we are working with our other partners to reduce the scope 3 emission. Some of the initiatives which have actually helped us in doing that was starting from the design stage itself. So if you look at Terminal 3 and Terminal 1, the newly come up Terminal 1, both of them together are about 7.6 lakh square meter of area, all of which is certified green building area. And in fact, Terminal 1 had just received LEED Platinum from USGBC. We have insisted that we have provided with bridge-mounted equipments in both our Terminals 1 and Terminal 3. And in fact, the adoption of bridge-mounted equipment is fairly high. Close to about 90% of the airlines today use bridge-mounted equipment. That helps them reduce carbon footprint. Because firstly, the energy that we use at Delhi Airport, we are 100% green energy because we have got something solar energy which is in situ, as well as rest of the energy we are taking from hydroelectric power. So these bridge-mounted equipments actually provide green energy to the airlines, and they don't have to switch on their auxiliary power unit. Next that we have done is that all our operating vehicle we have converted into green vehicles. So we have currently close to 92% of our vehicles which are green vehicle. We have, during our recent expansion, also increased our rainwater harvesting, and we are on the verge of being declared as water positive airport. So that is one very good achievement that we have had. Then we have got a very robust system of actually using all our discharge through our STP. In fact, we have got a capacity of about 16.6 million liter per day of STP, and all the greenery that you see at the airport is actually done through them, as well as we also use this water in the washroom, so that reduces our overall water consumption. And only about 2 months back, we have also been certified as net zero waste to landfill platinum certification we have got. So some of these things are first time across the world. In fact, 70 million plus, which is typically coming into a large airport category. we have been the leader in terms of all the sustainability practices. Another thing in terms of reducing the scope 3 emission, so we have been working very closely with other service providers like DMRC and as well as in terms of the buses. So close to 20% of the people coming to Delhi airport use public transport, which reduces per capita carbon emission dramatically. And then use of newer technology, whether it is AI or ML. So we have got something which is, we have just implemented at Hyderabad as well as Delhi, which is APOC, which is Airport Predictive Operations Center, which gives us in advance what is the kind of footfall that is going to happen, and accordingly we can actually align our resources, which helps in faster turnaround of aircraft and hence reduces the overall carbon footprint. We have also just now institutionalized what is called United Total Airside Management. One of the uses of that is that it measures what is called a variable taxi time. So how much time does each aircraft take to actually go from the runway to the parking stand? And that is something that we are measuring, and then through software we are optimizing that, and that is going to reduce the overall carbon emission of aircrafts also. All these are going to help us reduce the scope 3 carbon emission. Even in terms of the development of infrastructure, because if we are talking about sustainable practice, then whatever green infrastructure that you develop, whether it is in terms of the terminal building, whether in terms of other infrastructure, should pay for itself. So I always give this example that if we are talking about Terminal 1 and Terminal 3 being green infrastructure, they typically reduce my energy requirement by 30 to 40% and has got a payback period of 10 to 12 years. Similarly, Eastern Cross Taxiway, which has reduced the taxiing time of aircraft while it has cost us about 200 crores, there is a clear saving in terms of not only carbon but also in terms of the airline's taxiing time. And actually there is a clear payback of 15 to 18 years on that, because unless these things are sustainable, you cannot expect any entrepreneur, especially private entrepreneur, to keep on investing in this. What do I see as the future of green airports? So future of green airports, I see that there is more and more technology that is going to get adopted. There is more and more AI that is going to be used, which is going to improve the overall predictability of the airport operations. There is also going to be more uses of sustainable fuel in ground service equipment, which are difficult to actually get into a completely green hydrogen or SAF uses. And we are also working very closely with all the stakeholders to actually promote sustainable aviation fuel. So this is all from my side. Thank you.